Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
6:07, it's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here on our Tuesday morning in your nation's capital. Hope you had a great St. Patrick's Day yesterday. We are raring to go here because, well, we passed out around 2 in the afternoon. And when I say we, I mean me. And you, Julie, did you partake last night with your family?
I'm so pathetic. No, I didn't have a drink, and I was in bed by like 8.
Oh, we started. When did we get off the air yesterday? Around 9 o'clock, right?
Yeah,
Right when Chris Plant began?
Yeah.
9:01, I think, was my first glass of whiskey. It was.
Wow.
I was due. You know what? I've had a hell of a couple of weeks in my life, all right?
Okay.
And if I want to drown my sorrows in booze, I'm going to.
Hey, I'm ashamed of myself. I'm ashamed of myself, Larry. I don't say that, proud of myself.
Trust me, I drank enough for both of us. Coming up at 7:05, Tim Graham of Media Research Center. At 7:35, Mark Fisher, Maryland State Delegate. He doesn't touch the stuff. 8:05, astronaut Tom Jones. And at 8:35, Sean Spicer, who is probably still out there drinking, by the way, over at the Berliner. Wait, no, I always call it Berliner, the Dubliner.
Dubliner.
That's how drunk I am. I confuse the Dubliner with the Berliner. All right, Julie Gunlock, let's continue in this vein. So we just told you and showed you and demonstrated for you how Casey Hunt and CNN decided to engage in a debate and argument and downright catfight with Stephen Miller of the White House. And then the narrative continues. It seems that Democrats and the media, but Chris Plant repeats himself, are all in on protecting these Venezuelan gang members, likening them to, immigrants of the 18th century just coming here as huddled masses trying to find a future home. That's not what we're talking about here, guys. Here's Scott Jennings last night as the panel on Abby Phillips' show piled on. Here's start with cut 4.
It's quite clear the president believes he is keeping the United States and its citizens safe from non-citizens who are in the country illegally, first of all, and second of all, who have a long history of committing very, very violent acts, from murder to rape to sex trafficking and so on.
Don't you think they have to prove that, though? Because, I think that's – I don't think anybody disagrees about their ability to deport people who are murderers or rapists or whatever, but don't they have to actually prove that those people are who they say they are and that they've carried out those acts of those criminal acts?
Well, we know they're violent people because –
How do we know?
Because their records have already been pulled. These people were violent.
I think that the court,
from where they came from, and now they're here illegally. So
one of the things that happened in court
who
today,
they are.
well, that's what I'm saying.
Have they even given us their identity?
In the court today is that the lawyers for the government couldn't say really who these people were.
And interesting enough, what they tried to use is they said, we're looking at some of their tattoos, which means they have a gang affiliation, so they can be deported. It's a slippery slope that we don't want to open up.
But they're illegal
immigrants,
right?
That's why we have a process for everything.
But they're illegal immigrants, yes?
So actually, again,
we don't know
that.
The state of affairs. They're saying they're bad people, so they can get out of here.
It would be fine if we knew that, but we don't.
And the quotas is all fun until the rabbit has the gun, right? What if somebody turns that on one of us or anybody
we're citizens.
Else?
They're not citizens.
They are. Thank you. I love that last part. Well, we are citizens. They're not citizens. So they have a gang tattoo. So what? Yeah. There's a due process here for people. It's funny how they are very concerned about due process when it comes to exporting people who have entered this country illegally. But, we have a due process for people trying to get into this country.
Yep.
You're supposed to follow that legal due process to come in, and they don't seem too exercised about it. I hate to break it to everybody on that panel. But, this whole, you just can't profile people based on how they behave and how they look and all things like that. Every single time you go through TSA to get on an airplane, you are being profiled.
That's right.
All right. And we entrust in our federal law enforcement agents like TSA, like the FBI, like Border Patrol and ICE. We allow them to use their reasoned, educated, and trained judgment to determine whether you may be a threat. And that's exactly what happened here.
I think it's
not least of which you come from a nation of origin, Venezuela, who refuses to take you back. That should be a clue.
That's exactly what I was about to say, is that maybe the fact that their home countries don't want them, maybe it's the fact that their home countries were excited to export them, is a clue that these people are dangerous. I love also just the, it's like when he says, these people have tattoos, it's as if they have like a Mickey Mouse tattoo on their arm, or like I love mom. These are like face tattoos of daggers. Okay, demonic. Demonic
coming out of their
images.
eyes like tears.
Ana Navarro's like, that's just like I love mom and a heart, like.
Who am I to judge?
Right.
It's like Popeye's anchor. Are you going to deport Popeye because he has an anchor on his tricep? Is that what's next? It's a slippery slope, But in fact, you actually hear that from Representative Adriano Espaillat, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. Cut 5 here. Listen.
But there's people who are here.
The state of affairs in America is one that citizens are being stopped and questioned. I met with a U.S. citizen who was stopped at a subway station, questioned by ICE, detained for 3 hours.
Oh, how terrible.
This is the state of affairs in America. So it's not necessarily about who's on that plane who may have a criminal record. We don't know their names, their first names and last name. But it is really about those that are not on the plane that could find themselves one day on a plane.
You all are conflating different groups of people. U.S. citizens are different than non-citizens, and people here under certain status are much different than people who came here illegally, particularly if you came here illegally and you were violent where you came from. And I think the Trump administration, frankly, has a political and maybe even a legal mandate to exit from the country violent, illegal aliens.
So, a few things. First of all, Trump is the distractor in chief. So it benefits him that we're having this argument and that we are talking about and we're watching the video of these supposed violent criminals going into El Salvador, because that means we're not talking about the stock market tanking.
It's just a distraction. Ana Navarro. It's not like Donald Trump ran on this. It's not like he said he was going to enforce our immigration laws and deport criminal aliens who are there. This is all just he made up a. Oh, wait a second. That's literally exactly what he ran on.
It doesn't
in
matter.
The presidential
No matter what Trump does, Ana Navarro, if this were not Trump, if this were a Democrat in office trying to get these very violent criminals out of the country, and let's not forget, many of these sort of gang members, TDS, they settle in areas where other illegal immigrants come to, the ones that are actually escaping, hostile areas, or ones who are actually here. They always love to talk about those people. They just want the American dream. Well, often these violent criminals, these violent gang members settle into those communities. If this were anything else but Trump, she would be defending this action, saying the good illegal immigrants are often victims of these gang members. But no, because it's Trump, she's got to object. And
Anna doesn't live in those neighborhoods
No, she
anymore.
doesn't.
That's not her concern, of course. She's married well for herself, I suppose. Think through the logic of this for a moment. I know it might hurt your brain, but it's instructive to think through and play out the logic of the political left and the people in the media who are criticizing this. If you go through the proper process of entering our country legally, and you fill out all the forms, and you wait in line, and you answer questions, and it's discovered that back in your home country you were a gang member, drug dealer, and murderer, we have every right to say, no, we do not want you in this country. You will not be a legal resident. You will not get a green card. You will not be allowed in on a student visa or what have you, because you are a threat to our country. And no one debates that we have the right to do that. But if you enter the country illegally and you're discovered here, and we apprehend you and find out all those very same things about you, suddenly you have a right to stay, and we can't deport you. That's the logic of the left on this. Keep that in mind as we continue here. They're really going to town on this. They're really thinking that they're protecting the tired, poor, huddled masses that came here in the 19th century on boats from Europe. Let them think that, because it's to their party's destruction. 6:15
WMAL, making sense of the news.
It wasn't just CNN. Yesterday on St. Patrick's Day, as everyone was celebrating the great storied history of Irish heritage in this country, here's how CBS News with John Dickerson and Maurice Dubois opened their evening broadcast. Listen.
On this St. Patrick's Day, as millions of Americans celebrate their Irish heritage, recent events remind us that the Irish were among the first immigrants to be targeted in deportation crackdowns.
In the mid-1800s, New York and Massachusetts enforced policies to have Irish immigrants rounded up and deported.
The American Civil Liberties Union didn't exist then, but if it had, it may have taken the legal position it is taking now, suing the Trump administration to stop what it considers to be the illegal deportation over the weekend of more than 200 migrants to El Salvador.
Can you believe this? The migrants that are being sent to El Salvador, you know, the ones with the face tattoos and MS-13 tattooed on their butt, or TDA. I believe you said TDS in the last segment. That would be Trump Derangement Syndrome,
yes,
a very
sorry.
different violent gang.
Anna Navarro.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
But that's how they opened it. For the grace of God, go Irish immigrants of the 19th century. And, you know, I love that they're raising the specter of the racist Democrats in Boston and New York who did that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But please, don't conflate the two here, my friends. I promise you. It's a slippery slope.
It also just shows how historically ignorant they are. You know, they just toss out these things when they in no way fit the reality.
I'm sorry, did you say ignorant?
Yes.
Oh, Whoopi Goldberg. You just reminded me. I'm sorry. Whoopi Goldberg on The View took up this issue, and here's Whoopi's grave concern.
And you just got to keep your eyes open, y'all. Because if they can just come up and take somebody because they've made a decision that you're supposed to be that person, any one of us could find ourselves being deported to some country.
Don't give them any ideas, girl.
It is really funny when they say, you know, if they can do that. Who is they here? They make it sound like it's Trump and Vance and Elon Musk or something. They is federal law enforcement officials.
Yeah.
That's who they're implicating in this racist, unconstitutional behavior.
You know, I've lived in Northern Virginia now for, 20 plus years. I've raised my kids there. And one overarching theme about the sort of women of the sort of leftist, extremely liberal women in Northern Virginia is they're so bored. They are constantly looking for drama. They are constantly looking for some sort of like meaning in their life. And when I hear Whoopi say this kind of stuff, this is what I mean. It's like any one of us, they are so desperate to sort of be a part of this drama, or they want to be a victim. They desperately want to be a victim. They want to have something to cry about. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Any one of us.
But you never hear those women on The View or your neighbors in Alexandria, those same liberal Northern Virginia moms who were bored and looking for a cause. You never hear them say, the mother of Lake and Riley.
I know. Well, of course. Of course.
That could be my daughter who got murdered and raped. The victims of these criminals. You never hear
the
that.
Minute. Yeah. They are dehumanized. They think of these women that are victims as dehumanized.
John Carl, ABC News yesterday with George Stephanopoulos. This must have been Good Morning America. This is my favorite of the arguments. Then when they focus on the Alien Enemies Act, we dwelled on it yesterday from 1798. Here, take a listen.
The administration knew they were defying the order, so this is likely to head perhaps to the Supreme Court.
Yes, George, as Mary reported, it was we are told, a calculated decision to ignore the judge's directive. The hearing on this is rather extraordinary. The hearing on this had already started before those planes took off. It was before the judge actually issued the order, but it was after it was quite clear the judge was skeptical of the use of this 1798 Alien Enemies Act. By the way, that is an act that has only been used 3 times in all of American history. So the judge was
I love that. You know, we talked about it quite a bit yesterday. It's so old. Yeah, okay. Tom Homan yesterday. I believe Tom Homan was listening us to on the way in because he was challenged, the border czar was, by a reporter at the White House. Here, listen.
You say to those who claim you're using a 200-year-old law to circumvent due process.
An old law? Not as old as the Constitution. We still pay attention to that, don't we?
What do you say to people who say you're using an old law? Yeah, old law. The Constitution's pretty old, and we still pay attention to that. Well, some of us do, some of us don't. Mark Hemingway pointed out on X, amazing journalists are all parroting the talking point. The Alien Enemies Act is old, rarely used law. It was 2017 when Obama instigated the investigation into General Michael Flynn and threatened the Trump administration, the incoming Trump administration, with major legal problems and a case against him using the Logan Act. the Logan Act just as old as the Alien Enemies Act. But you know the difference? It's never, ever, ever actually been applied, ever in our history. But it was, I think, Joe Biden, the vice president, who came up with that scheme.
That's okay.
In that infamous meeting with Susan. Yep. Then, you know, that, oh, sure, you can't violate the Logan Act, but apparently the Alien Enemies Act is no problem. Oh, one other addendum on this. As I say, the media is all in on protecting them. They're not alone. There's a great person in Washington, D.C., member of Congress, who is interested in doing away with the Alien Enemies Act. Take a listen.
America is too great to fall prey to Donald Trump's anti-immigrant agenda. We need to restore basic humanity to our immigration system, and that starts with repealing the Alien Enemies Act of 1798.
There you go. It was Ilhan Omar. Maybe they could find a better spokeswoman for eliminating the Alien Enemies Act than Ilhan Omar, a woman who has sympathized
who came
and
from a
cheered
lawless
with
company or country, who literally came from a lawless country to make
and with her thick Somali accent has praised radical Islamic terrorists. Some people did something. Who are we to judge? There are no enemies. Let's get rid of this law. We do not like to. Listen, at least she concedes that the law is, in fact, legal and enforceable and is being utilized. At least she actually says, let's repeal the law. Everyone else in her party and the media, they just want you to ignore the law. Right. It's 6:24.
Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
6:37 now. It's O'Connor and Company. Thank you so much for letting us be a part of your morning routine. We love it. We do. Coming up at 7:05, Tim Graham, Media Research Center. 7:35, Mark Fisher, Maryland State Delegate. 8:05, astronaut Tom Jones on the rescue of those stranded astronauts up in orbit. And then at 8:35, Sean Spicer, who, by the way, had a garage band in the 80s called Stranded Astronauts. So it all comes together here with Sean Spicer. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
Do you love the French? Do you love the croissants?
Can't help it. I love France. I can't help it.
All of the French things are very French.
I try not to like the French, but I love France.
Well, can we love France and love French culture and French art and French food and French wine, but still have a certain level of disdain for the people who live there? Are we allowed?
Let's just have the disdain for the French politicians. How's that?
Okay, French politicians is good, and Parisians, which I'm told are different than.
I actually have never had a bad experience with Parisians.
Really? Oh,
never. Listen to me. I act like I'm there all the time.
Exactly. All right. So here's what happened: a French politician went on a global media tour. Now, to set this up properly, one must understand that this person was feted and celebrated and the special guest internationally, Sky News, BBC, everywhere. This guy was everywhere. Raphael Glucksmann, he is a socialist, literally. At least they call themselves socialists over there. They still hide behind the Democrat Party here in America. But over there, they're out and proud. They're socialists. Member of the left-wing Place Publique Party in France. And he said that we want the Americans to return the Statue of Liberty, which, by the way, is typical of the French, right? Oh, sure, it was a present, but now we want our present back. Can we call them Indian givers? Are we allowed to use that term right now?
You're not allowed to use that.
You're not? Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Why? Because they're okay.
You're so canceled.
Testing the waters here. I'm edgy.
It's been nice co-hosting with you.
Oh, I'm edgy. All right, so the French, acting like French givers, apparently, is the more politically correct way to say it. They want the Statue of Liberty back. So Karoline Leavitt was asked about this yesterday during the press briefing. Now, a couple of things here of note. First of all, the question posed to Karoline Leavitt is, will the Trump administration be returning the Statue of Liberty? Which, how exactly would that even happen if we were to do that? I think that would be hilarious, actually, if they did. They said, "Oh yeah, come and get it. Come and get it,
You come and
Frenchie.
get it.
You want the statue? Absolutely, you come and get it." Or as Ann Coulter said, "Let's just give him back the stupid poem that's down at the bottom that suddenly has become mandated federal policy because somebody won a poetry contest." So Karoline Leavitt is asked about this, and now she's being criticized for her more than reasonable response. Here, take a listen. It's cut 14.
There is now a member of the European Parliament from France who does not think the U.S. represents the values of the Statue of Liberty anymore. They want the Statue of Liberty back. So is President Trump going to send the Statue of Liberty back to France?
Absolutely not. And my advice to that unnamed low-level French politician would be to remind them that it's only because of the United States of America that the French are not speaking German right now. So they should be very grateful to our great country.
Love it.
There you go. Now, to be fair, if it weren't for the French, we would still be having tea time here and showing fealty to the king. Yes. So we have a long relationship.
But that was all. Honestly, that was King Louis's decision, and then they cut his head off. So, the people. People of France were not exactly for funding the United States.
That's fair enough. Fair enough, but we're still happy with Marquis de Lafayette. And
yes.
all the
absolutely.
Good support he did. Sure. Listen, it was fine. I don't know. She's being criticized for this. That was undiplomatic, and it's. There's no criticism for somebody representing the French government in the European Parliament saying, "Give us back the Statue of Liberty." I think it's funny. I would have also added to that. I would say that said, let's just take this premise for a moment. The United States no longer represents what that statue represents, that there is a freer country on this planet that represents liberty and a better way of life. Could you please tell me what country should have this statue if it's not the United States of America? And quick follow-up question. If that other country is so great and so free and so prosperous, then why aren't all of these people going to that country?
That's right.
Instead of ours.
I can't
just leave
top that
there. Also from Karoline Leavitt yesterday about the illegal immigrants being deported. Here's cut 15. It was a great presser for Karoline Leavitt yesterday. Here's cut 15.
Here, though, other than, say, tattoos or maybe being in the wrong place at the wrong time, are they using to determine that someone is actually a member of one of these organizations?
Intelligence and the men and women on the ground in the interior of our country who are finally being allowed to do their jobs. Their hands were tied under the previous administration, and as I said, they take their jobs very seriously. They should be trusted and respected by the American public with this operation. And of course, as I said to Kelly, the administration will provide all details to the questions that the court poses.
What aside from that I love mom tattoo on someone's forearm? Just can't get over this.
When James Comey was in charge of the FBI, the media, without question, accepted anything that he leaked to them about horrible criminal corruption and Russian collusion, right? Hey, if an FBI agent said this is happening, it's got to be true. But now it's like, well, what evidence do you have? We have ICE agents. We have law enforcement. They know who the bad guys are. They're now allowed to do their job. Oh, no. You have to have due process. Meanwhile, Carter Page still would like to know where he can get his reputation back. It is 6:43. It's March. Spring is almost here, and that means it's the perfect time to spring into a healthier you this season. It's time to shed the winter pounds and start feeling your best, and you can do it with the help with our friends at CoPair. Julie, you've had great recent success with CoPair, haven't you?
That's right. I've lost weight. I'm feeling so much better. My clothes fit better. My coach has been incredibly helpful. It's been a great experience, Larry.
Yeah, I had a great experience with my coach, too. So many of our amazing listeners have heard my story with CoPair, your story, JJ's story. Our friend JJ decided to call CoPair, and he started a weight loss journey. Shout out to Matt in Bethesda, who lost 9 pounds in his first week. Sharon in Ashburn is down 13 pounds after her first month. If you call now, you can start your program in March, and you'll be fit and looking better by the summer. Men, you start now, you can lose 50 pounds or more by June. Women, you can lose 35 or more. Do what we did, do what so many are doing. Spring into weight loss for WMAL listeners at 855-888-0180 or go to COPAREhealth.com.
WMAL, making sense of mainstream media because the double standard is real. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
A couple more highlights here. First, Karoline Leavitt. Caitlin Collins was asking about the Joe Biden use of the auto pen, as we revealed yesterday on the show. Donald Trump says these pardons should be null and void. I don't think that they're applicable anymore because of the auto pen. Here's the exchange with Karoline Leavitt and Caitlin Collins, cut 16.
But was he aware of his signature being used on every single pardon? That's a question you should ask the Biden White House.
Is there any evidence on that he wasn't aware of it?
You're a reporter. You should find out. Sean.
I love that.
I do too.
I love that. You know, and by the way, I'll show you my favorite follow-up on that in a moment, but here's Trump yesterday dealing with questions at the Kennedy Center, cut 20.
Sir, and when you signed the CR,
Who are you with?
Sir, I'm with NBC News.
That's the same one. I don't want to talk to NBC anymore. I think you're so discredited.
Mr. President. It's so great.
That's a great moment.
It is.
So, no, it's great. It's so dismissive and it's so wonderful. By the way, so CNN plays that clip of Karoline Leavitt, though, Caitlin Collins, where she says, "You're a reporter. Why don't you look at the evidence? You look it up, right, about the auto pen." Here's CNN's justice correspondent then back in the studio after that. Listen.
So there's Leavitt shifting the focus a little bit from the auto pen to the was Biden actually making the decision? Again, we believe he did make the decision as president to offer these pardons.
Did you catch that?
We believe.
We believe that Joe Biden did know what he was doing. When he said, we believe?
Done. Yeah, we believe.
We believe?
That's all that matters.
That's it? That's CNN's
That's
reporting?
The whole investigation.
Oh, Jake Tapper should be so proud of that journalism. That's good stuff, CNN. We believe.
We believe.
Now let's turn to our next story about the Easter Bunny.